Hello and welcome to Rapid Fire Wednesdays, Q&A for corporate immigration professionals. I'm Kimberley Robidoux, a WR partner in San Diego, and I'm here today as always with the co-managing partner of our Boston office, Miki Matrician. Hey to you, Miki. How are you doing today?
Good. Hi, Kim.
All right, so for today's installment of our Rapid Fire Wednesdays, we're going to discuss some benchmarking results in response to an immigration benchmarking survey that we recently conducted with global mobility professionals. So, the Immigration Benchmarking Collective is a global mobility community that we started about 5 months ago. We have currently about 150 members, and it's growing. And those members are comprised of HR and global mobility professionals. It's truly a unique community in that it's very different from everything else in the industry. So, unlike other surveys, the data is based upon verified global mobility and immigration professionals who actually run the immigration programs at their organizations, instead of getting information from third-party surveys where the publisher can't verify the data or the participants. So, based on the results, we provide personalized benchmarking reports tailored to our companies so that they can see where the program falls compared to other programs and kind of, benchmark themselves to see how they're doing. And then we have also been holding roundtables built off of these surveys. So, Miki, do you want to tell us a little bit about those roundtables that we've been holding?
Yeah, sure. We've hosted a few virtual and then in-person roundtables where we facilitate discussions based on the topics that HR and global mobility professionals want to hear about. And those are the topics that the surveys are based on. And the conversation really flows. It's a place where global mobility professionals are exchanging ideas and talking about their experiences, what worked, what didn't work. And it gets really lively and it's really fun to participate in it. And it's really insightful too. And people get to expand their networks and forge relationships, which is fantastic. And I love being part of these discussions because, it's really born out of the empirical benchmarking that really, are based on common problems shared across companies, regardless of where they sit or their industry vertical. And so, we're providing a community where it is missing out there. There's none other like it. And it's been a great journey.
Yeah.
So, with that, do you want to turn to today's topic? It's on effective communication strategies for immigration programs.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that we talked about recently in one of our sessions and events. So we also asked global mobility professionals with one of our benchmarking collectives how their teams disseminated information to the foreign nationals, as well as to various stakeholders within the organization. So the most popular communication channels are emails, one-on-one calls, and company internet or internal websites. So the WR benchmarking survey also found that the organizations that participated had roughly one global mobility professional to every 140 foreign national employees. So that's a lot of foreign national employees per global mobility professional, especially when there are a lot of questions surrounding the immigration cases, as well as changes or even perceived changes in the immigration process in the United States. And globally, when the US based global mobility professional is overseeing the team internationally, that just like expands upon the wealth of knowledge that they have to have in order to help respond to the questions from the foreign national employees. So, Mickey, can you tell us why communication, especially of immigration issues, is so important to a global mobility program?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that proactive communication in any area is really key. And especially when you're dealing with information about an individual's immigration status, especially in this day and age where immigration is changing so rapidly. And because it impacts a foreign national's day to day life, everyone deals with work related and personal stressors, right? And for them, it's immigration status and process in addition to all of that. And in fact, immigration can be the key source of anxiety for some foreign nationals. And, in my experience, I found that those companies that have clear communication channels and provide as much transparency as possible are the ones where foreign national employees are the most content with the company's immigration program.
Right. So you're talking about different channels of communication and there's different clients and different styles. But In your experience with your clients, what channels of communication have they found to be the most effective?
Yeah, so I guess the default is email, right? Is the main source of communication. And as we expected, the survey corroborated that. So 93% rely on emails primarily. The emails are used both for, blasts to the entire foreign national population or about recent events, but also for communicating about individual information to each foreign national about their specific case and immigration strategy, right? And some global mobility professionals hold office hours either on their own or with immigration counsel on a regular basis, which allows a forum for employees to get more in-depth conversations about how-tos for particular case or overall strategy for their whole immigration life cycle at the organization. So and I think it's pretty common to see companies using FAQs and information about recent developments or changes or common themes like holiday travel, things like that. And that lets the employees gather and review the information that they need at whenever is convenient for them, right? So a couple of my clients have established a global mobility intranet landing site to kind of promote that self service for resources like FAQs and checklists. And I think those are more common at larger programs because it takes some investment of time and resources to get it up and running. And then you'd have to maintain it with up to date information. So I guess it really depends on the size of the program and how much support there is to launch something like that and maintain it. And then, depending on the law firm, which the global mobility team is partnering, the immigration case management program might be the primary go to in terms of providing up to date case information, like where the case is in the life cycle. Also, regarding immigration status and expiration dates for the employee and the dependent family members all in one place. And so that's pretty common. And with our rapid case management system, for nationals and global mobility professionals have instant access to case status information 24/7. Also, immigration status documents like I-94 with expiration dates and visa stamp expiration dates and all of that. And then in terms of information that gets updated, when government mail is received, for us, we have our beloved AI bot, Rosie, who processes the government documents like receipts and approvals and populates our platform. So that's helpful because Rosie doesn't have to sleep. And so she's able to provide instantaneous government updates around the clock.
Right. Unlike the rest of us and our global mobility partners who have to sleep every now and then. But there, you were talking about some really good methods of communication, which require people to read a lot, right? The emails and the FAQs and all those kind of good things, which do provide a lot of information. But what about town halls, which also are referred to as immigration chats with the foreign national population? So specifically, pre-pandemic, I was going to a lot of my client sites at least once a year, if not for some companies quarterly, to have a chat with the foreign national employees to discuss, what are recent immigration updates? Why are things taking so long to process by the government? And also just talk about those overall reminders about what to do if someone is traveling, if their family members are traveling, what about if their job changes? So sometimes hearing those things in person has been really helpful. And then, with a more remote workforce, and then obviously during the pandemic, the town halls kind of morphed some of them more into virtual meetings. But still, it's a discussion, with the foreign national employees as well as, our HR and global mobility professionals. So those are kind of normal now to have virtual as opposed to in person, but there's still some in person going on. So, what about you with your experience with town halls and what your clients, are working on with respect to communication with their employees?
Yeah, I think it's a good way to provide updates and have meaningful discussions. Yeah, I think, like you're alluding to, it's helpful for some people to read information. Other people process better when they hear it. So, yeah, it's just another way to convey information, and it's really helpful too to answer the questions that come from the attendees because a lot of people are wondering the same thing, right? And then it's also helpful to kind of get the pulse about what's concerning foreign nationals, what's on their minds, and it helps to understand some of the pain points too, and how we can address those issues. I guess one caveat with town halls is that, we don't want foreign national employees to divulge their personal situation and confidential information. So we always say at the outset, to please, feel free to ask questions that are general and not for anything specific to their own situation. And then for anything specific and personal, to please seek attorney advice offline. The other thing that has been helpful is to provide training sessions with various stakeholders like hiring managers or recruiters, right? And meetings like that are a good way to bring these stakeholders up to speed on the current immigration trends and processing times and things like that. It's also a good opportunity to get in front of them to highlight the kinds of things we need to know before a change happens. Like if the manager is planning to promote someone, if we can get that information before it happens, then we can advise if there would be any impact to the employee's non immigrant status or their ability to travel internationally. For example, if we would have to start their green card case over again. And that might be a surprise to the foreign national who would be excited about a promotion, but then they find out that their, green card case would have to be restarted again. That might make them upset. So those are pieces of information that if we can be consulted as immigration counsel beforehand, that's helpful. And then, the business can make the decision with all the information that they have. So and then for recruiters, I think it's helpful for them to know the immigration process and timeline so that they can understand how long does it take to onboard a foreign national new hire. And then also to bring the recruiter into the fold on the green card process so that they can avoid overpromising to a candidate something that might be contrary to the sponsorship policy, right? And another thing is to help them to avoid asking questions that they shouldn't be asking, like those that could inadvertently trigger discrimination liability when they don't really mean to. So it's about bringing them into the fold and educating them. And I think it's, because immigration is so complicated and it intersects with so many different areas of law that are not immigration, like employment law or contract law. Um, so, I think those opportunities to get together with the stakeholders is helpful. And so, yeah, communication is key when it comes to immigration, given all the complexities and then, not to mention the changes that happen all the time.
Right. Yeah, I agree 100%. And, effective communication is obviously really key, not just that communication with foreign national employee population, but also with all the stakeholders, right? It really is wonderful when you talk to hiring managers and recruiters and all of a sudden they're like, oh, that's why this is this way. Or, a hiring manager who is working directly with that employee on a day in, day out basis can then understand the process a little bit if they're, not as familiar with it. So yeah, I always enjoy having those town halls or the meetings. Just makes it a lot of great discussion. And we learn a lot from that as well in order to make the program better for our clients. So I appreciate your insight on this topic. And I think with that, it's a wrap for today's session on effective communication on immigration issues. So tune in next week for another edition of Rapid Fire Wednesdays. And we're also going to be talking a little bit more about the benchmarking survey. If you don't already, please follow us on LinkedIn, the WR Immigration Profile, as well as Miki and my profiles. And we also transcribe this into a newsletter every week that you can subscribe to. We hope you do so you can have information in the comments. Thanks and good to see you and have a great day.
Thanks, my fire twin.